day. It's you I live for every day. I'll follow after you every day. I'll walk with you, my Lord. It's you I live for every day.
Good evening. This evening we're going to take a look at another one of the one another passages, this time out of the book of Romans chapter 14 and verse 19. Reading out of the New American Standard Version, it says, "So then let us pursue the things which make for peace and the building up of one another." English Standard Version reads just a little bit different but about the same. "So then let us pursue what makes for peace and for mutual upbuilding." This evening, what I really want us to focus on in the few minutes I have is the idea of building one another up and the importance of that. We all like to be encouraged. We all need encouragement. We live in a discouraging world at times. And one of the blessings I think that we find in the family of God is that we have the opportunity to encourage one another and to build one another up. As we talk about building one another up, I think there's two aspects to that. And I want us to touch on both of them for just a minute. The two aspects I see in building up one another and building one another up are that we are called to both encourage and to equip. Both of those are facets of building up. And I think one of the best ways to kind of explain this and look at this is to look at a couple of New Testament examples of men who I believe did exactly this: build others up, encourage them and equip them. The first one that I want us to notice is Joseph of Cyprus. Now, some folks may go, Joseph of Cyprus? Who are you talking about? Well, we don't know him as Joseph of Cyprus in the New Testament. We know him as Barnabas. In Acts chapter 4, verse 36, it mentions that there was a Joseph of Cyprus who obviously was very influential in the early church in Jerusalem, but Luke tells us that the disciples started calling him Barnabas, the son of encouragement. Now, without knowing Barnabas, doesn't that tell you that this is a guy you would have liked to have been around? This was obviously a very special brother, to the point that when folks thought of him, they thought of somebody who was encouraging. But what I want us to look at real quickly is the pivotal role, I believe, that Barnabas played in the life of one of the most influential characters in the New Testament, and that's Saul. When Saul was converted on the road to Damascus in Acts chapter 9, when he comes back to Jerusalem after he's been in Damascus for a while, the disciples in Jerusalem have a really hard time with him. They don't trust him. And it'd be kind of like if Osama bin Laden were still alive and suddenly Osama bin Laden said, "Hey, I've decided I want to be a Christian." People would go, "Oh, really? I don't think so. I don't trust you." Well, it's kind of that way, I think, with a lot of the early Christians and Saul. What's fascinating is in Acts chapter 9, verse 27, when Saul comes back to Jerusalem, the text says, Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles and defended him. When Saul needed someone to encourage him, when Saul needed somebody to stand beside him, there was the son of encouragement. There was Barnabas. Now, Saul will leave Jerusalem. He'll go back to Tarsus, his hometown. And a lot of people aren't aware of the fact he'll spend a long time there, 12 years or so. And then we're told in Acts chapter 11 and verse 25 that it's Barnabas who goes to Tarsus, and it says, looking for Saul. And he finds Saul, and he brings Saul to Antioch. But when it's time for Saul to begin his ministry, I think it's interesting that God takes the son of encouragement and obviously directs the son of encouragement to go to Tarsus and get Saul and bring him to Antioch so that, in Acts chapter 13, they can begin their first missionary journey together. And when you look in Acts 13 and they start this missionary journey, it talks about how Barnabas and Saul start. But a little ways into the chapter, Luke will start calling Saul Paul. And by the end of the chapter, it's not Barnabas and Saul, it's now Paul and Barnabas who are on the missionary journey. Clearly there's been a major change in how these men are viewed and the roles that they play. But it's Barnabas who's there for Saul. I really think if you could have gone back, if we could today corner Paul and ask Paul, Paul, who is one of the most influential men in your life? I think without a shadow of a doubt, he would talk about that son of encouragement, Barnabas, and how Barnabas stood with him and encouraged him and stood by him and aided him and blessed him in so many ways. But then Paul himself, I also see as another encourager and especially equipper. Because in Acts chapter 16, it is Paul who, when he meets Timothy, will clearly go, hey, this is a young man with promise. I want to work with him. And he will take Timothy under his wing, and he'll work with him and encourage him and equip him and develop him to the point that as you read through the New Testament, notice how many letters come from Paul with Timothy at his side. And some of the last letters that Paul will write, 2 of them are to Timothy. And as you read those letters in what we call 1st and 2nd Timothy, what do you find Paul doing? You find Paul encouraging and equipping Timothy. He's building him up. But this role of building up, this role of encouraging and equipping isn't just for men like Barnabas and Paul. When Paul writes to Titus in Titus chapter 2, verses 3 through 5, he's going to tell Titus, Titus, encourage the older women to teach the younger women what? To be Christian wives and Christian mothers. To what? To encourage and equip them. I don't care who you are. In the body of Christ, you have a role to build one another up. And you have the right and the responsibility and the blessing to, as you can, encourage and equip others. One of the strengths of the body, I believe, is the fact that we can encourage and equip one another. And so as you discuss this concept this evening and you talk about this blessing that we have in building one another up, I pray that God will bless you and open your heart and your mind to seeing just how important it is that we be truly a people who build one another up. God bless.
Love one another. Serve one another. Pray for each other. Encourage one another.